What's the story, Morning Glory? What is the word, Hummingbird? Thank you so much for clicking on my channel and for joining me for this review slash discussion of the Real Housewives of New Jersey, season 13, episode 12. I want to get through what happened on the show really quick because at the end of it all, I have a lot to say about the Real Housewives of New Jersey, which basically applies to all of the Real Housewife franchise. But let me get through this little episode first. So when it starts off, the women are still at the pub and they're drinking because, Andy Cohen, producers at Bravo, whoever, they love pumping up these people with alcohol. And that's like the basic formula of every single reality TV show, is to get the cast as drunk as possible so then they can start arguing and bickering and boom, we have a show. So they are still at the pub when this episode starts and they are doing beer chugging challenges with the locals. They're taking a whole bunch of shots. Everybody's drunk out of their mind. So they get on the Sprinter van to get back to the castle, and Melissa's drunk and she mentions something about drunk texting her ex. Teresa heard this. I don't know if Jennifer did. Heaven forbid if Jennifer heard this, but it doesn't matter because Teresa will tell her. But Teresa heard Melissa say this and she had this look on her face like, she said ex. She didn't mention Joe. She mentions drunk texting her ex. So I don't know if that's going to be an issue later. This is the reason why you shouldn't drink and get drunk out of your mind, because then you start saying careless things that people are going to use against you later. So the next morning, Paul's mom, sister, and niece stopped by the castle while the ladies are having breakfast. Paul's mom was absolutely adorable. She was funny. So we have a little comic relief with Paul's mom. And then after that, Jennifer has planned a hen party, or what we would call a bachelorette party, for Teresa. So they don't want to do the typical bachelorette party type of stuff like going to a strip club, because Jennifer says that her and Teresa are very old fashioned and they don't need people's junk swinging around in front of their faces. So she plans a literal hen party. They go to a farm where they have to chase these chickens or chase the cock or whatever the hell they're doing. And Teresa, when she first arrived, she was like, oh, this really isn't my thing, because it for sure wasn't my thing. I'm like, what the hell are we doing? What is this? But anyway, so they chase a whole bunch of chickens around. After that, they they do the painting of Teresa's life. Now, it got kind of emotional because all the women were supposed to paint a memorable moment of Teresa's life, or an iconic moment of Teresa's life. Melissa starts it off with the Gorga family moving from Italy to America, and she draws, the entire family, which is, the mom and the dad, and then Joe and his sister Teresa. And when she's explaining what her drawing means, Teresa gets emotional. Melissa gets very emotional. They even hug it out. Teresa gets up and she hugs her sister-in-law, and they have a moment. And it doesn't really matter that they have a moment, because every time they have a moment where it seems like, that things might be looking up, it doesn't last long. It lasts for like half a second, and then within the next hour, they're back to throwing insults at one another, yelling at one another, fighting again. So it's a moment, but we can't really relish in it because it never lasts long. So everybody goes through whatever they painted of Teresa's life, and Teresa really loved it. And I thought the whole project was cute. It was cute for what it was. So after that, they all sit down. Oh, before that, while, Teresa was giving a speech to the ladies after they all talked about their paintings, she gets up and she says something in front of the ladies and how much it meant to her for them to do this for her. And she mentioned something about probably having Melissa's son, Gio, I think his name is it Gio? Having Melissa's son walk down the aisle alongside one of Teresa's daughters. And I think Melissa was like, oh, like, really, are you serious? You want to do that? And then Teresa backtracked and she was like, well, I don't know. I'm just saying that it would be nice to have, something of the children in my wedding. So she really didn't mean like literally having Gio in her wedding. She was just, I don't know what she was doing, thinking out loud, or she was, I don't know, expressing her hopes and dreams, but knew that it was never going to come into fruition. I don't know, or trying to tease Melissa. And I don't know what Teresa was doing, but I'm like, why would you mention that if you really have no intentions of making that happen? And why wouldn't you make it happen? Why wouldn't you want Gio to walk down the aisle with one of his girl cousins at your wedding? Like, why would that be such a horrible idea? You're inviting everybody else last minute. I mean, literally everybody else you're throwing into your wedding party last minute. Why wouldn't you want Melissa and Joe's kids, be a part of the wedding party? I thought it was a great idea, but I don't know. So moving on from there, they all sit down for lunch, and what's her name? Jennifer announces that Louis asked Nabil to be a part of the wedding party. Now, why was this said like so much after Jennifer announced that she was a part of the wedding party? Like, why do they do like inviting Jennifer and then inviting Nabil? They're a married couple, so why wouldn't Teresa and Louis have invited both Jennifer and Nabil to be a part of the wedding party at the same damn time? Like, why did they invite Jennifer and then waited and then invited Nabil? I guess somebody else must have dropped out of the damn wedding. I don't know. So Jennifer announces how Nabil was going to be a part of the wedding. Of course, the camera pans to Melissa, but I think she had her shades on, so we really couldn't see her expression. Teresa said that it was really nice of Louis to do this because she doesn't have any family. And plus, the Aidens have been very supportive of Teresa and Louis' relationship. And so Danielle starts crying because she's thinking about the situation between her and her own brother. And she tells the ladies that even though Melissa and Teresa, they yell and scream at each other and they're always angry at one another, at least they're communicating, because she doesn't even have that with her brother. So, yeah. My thoughts on them inviting Nabil to be a part of the wedding party, it really doesn't matter, but I keep thinking to myself that all the people that Teresa is inviting, how she's completely skipping over her brother and her sister-in-law. I think she's only inviting these people to hurt Melissa and Joe. I don't think she's inviting these people into her wedding party because she really wants them, like it really means anything to her. I think she's just doing it to hurt her sister-in-law and her brother, because why are you doing it last minute? And of course, I understand that people have dropped out of the wedding and she has to replace them, but I don't understand, like, if you're gonna add all these, I don't understand, like, why. First of all, why wouldn't you have put Jennifer in your wedding party to begin with? I thought that was your BFF on the show, your ride or die. Jennifer would lay on the sword for Teresa, so why wasn't Jennifer already in the wedding party? But whatever, that's neither here nor there. So moving on from there, Danielle is FaceTiming her husband, and she's saying that she's having a miserable time in Ireland. She has to deal with Rachel and Margaret attacking her constantly. She has to witness Melissa and Teresa constantly bickering about their family issues, and she's having a miserable time. She's not enjoying her time in Ireland at all. Then we take a pause from the women and we hop back to New Jersey, and we see that all the men have gotten together for like a boys' night out. Everybody's there except for Louis. I think he was sick or something, I don't know. And they're celebrating or the commiserating the fact that Frank is going to be going into the cannabis business. So he's starting up this cannabis business, and he brought some products for the men to try out. It was a really funny scene. I love watching the men. I don't think there's any group of husbands that are as entertaining to watch or as close with one another as the New Jersey husbands. And I'm really trying to think, and I can't think of any other franchise where the husbands get along so well and are actually entertaining to watch. So watching them was hilarious. So Nabil brings up how he was invited to, or he was included in Teresa and Louis' wedding party. And of course, Joe had a few choice words to say about that. And in his confessional, he said that they get invited last minute and they just, flip over backwards to try to make sure that they make Teresa happy and that, they're going to be a part of the wedding party, even though they were an afterthought, even though it was all last minute. Jennifer and Nabil are very much pick me type of people when it comes to Teresa. So they're they probably peed in their pants when Teresa invited them. So we're back in Ireland. So the women are having a whiskey tasting because once again, the producers want to pump them full of alcohol so that we can have something to record. So they're doing this whiskey tasting, and Danielle asks Margaret and Rachel if they would be able to move forward with her. And I forgot what Rachel said, but she didn't say what Margaret wanted to hear. So then Margaret got really upset and she just completely went off on Rachel. And she got mad because she says, we were both talking. We were both talking about Margaret and her arsenal. We were both talking about it. It was a two-way conversation. Sure enough, it was. But if I can remember correctly, I think when they were talking about Margaret and her arsenal, and this information was given to them by Jennifer and Teresa. So when they were discussing this, they were definitely both having a conversation about it. But you can tell that Danielle took it to heart. Danielle believed it 100%. She was like, oh my God, Margaret has this arsenal, and how could she? And what kind of a person collects information on their friends just to use it against them later? And Rachel was just like, yeah, I see what you're saying. She was just kind of listening and nodding her head. She really wasn't believing what was being told, because Rachel has always said, ever since she showed up on the show, that she is going to judge every friendship on its own. She's not going to listen to anybody on what they have to say about anybody else. She was going to take each individual person and try to make a connection with them and come up with her own conclusion on, what kind of person they were. Danielle is the one that was busy listening to Teresa and Jennifer and just going with whatever the hell they said. So Melissa, in her confessional and also at the table, she says to the ladies that, y'all are mad at the wrong person. Y'all are mad at Danielle, but y'all really need to be mad at Teresa and Jennifer, because they were the ones that put that information in Danielle's ear about Margaret having this arsenal. So those are the real culprits. And then Danielle is like, no, I'm going to do you one better. Y'all need to be mad at Margaret's ex-best friend, Laura, because she's the one that gave that information to Jennifer and Teresa. And so Margaret is like, who are you to talk about my ex-best friend, Laura? You haven't even met the woman. So, okay, so the real culprit is Laura, according to Danielle. And Danielle then tells Margaret, well, out of all the things that you can possibly be mad at me about, you choose that. Out of all the things that I know about you, you choose that to get mad at. And so Margaret was like, well, what the hell else do you know? And Jennifer, who was sitting next to Danielle, was like, because she thought that Danielle was going to spill the beans on what she told her about Melissa being caught kissing another man in some car. So Jennifer probably saw her whole entire life flash before her eyes after Margaret asked Danielle, well, what else do you know? And luckily, Danielle did not spill the beans. And she was just like, I know a lot. Okay, I know a lot. So Danielle says that it's because of the things that Margaret, what did she say? She said that she says something to Margaret like, you're really the problem or something like that, because of all the things that you were saying about Louis, taking all that internet garbage and bringing it onto the show and bringing it to Teresa, all the rumors that you were reading about him on the internet. And then you're the one that exposed Nabil's affair. And because of you, now his children know that he cheated on their mother. And so then Margaret retaliates with, look, if you're always going to be bringing up the past and you can't let the past go, you will always have issues with your family that will never be resolved. And I was like, Margaret, here you go again, saying something that you're probably going to really regret later. Yeah, Margaret, that was not cool at all, because to use Danielle's situation with her brother, to use that against her, to attack her, I thought that was a very low blow. That was completely uncalled for. What does her issues with her brother have to do with the things that you said about Teresa and Louis and Nabil and Rachel? Nothing. That was her hitting totally below the belt. And I was really disappointed in Margaret. It's like she was really affected by what Danielle said for her to retaliate with something like that. Everybody needs to leave Danielle's relationship with her brother alone. The brother is not there to defend himself. The brother is not there to give his side of the story. All we know is that she's, had a falling out with her sibling, and Everybody should just be sympathetic and support her in that issue because she's obviously struggling. Whether she was in the wrong or he was in the wrong, it really doesn't matter. This woman is obviously struggling with the fallout that she's had with her brother and her sister-in-law, and the brother not talking to the mother. She's suffering. She's going through some stuff over that. So people should just be supportive no matter what. Show her some grace and be supportive, and not use it against her and not dig and pry into it. Like I said, this is probably the only time that I have agreed with Jennifer Aiden, when Jennifer Aiden says it's none of our business. They need to leave her alone and stop asking her questions or interrogating her as far as like, what's the real reason why you don't talk to your brother? It can't be over TikTok. So boom, I went through the episode. Now let me give my 2 cents about this show. How much longer are we going to have to suffer through the feud between Joe Gorga and his sister Teresa? How much longer? Every single reunion, every single season, everything is centered around around Teresa and Joe. Whenever they get new cast members, they got to pick a side. Are you team Teresa? Are you or are you team Melissa? If these two people, Teresa and Joe, if they don't want to go to therapy, if they don't want to go through therapy, don't hash out your stuff on this show. We're sick and tired of it. Okay. We're sick and tired of this feud that is going on between these two siblings. It will never get resolved. They refuse to take accountability. They're both at fault, but they both refuse to take any kind of accountability. There's a lot of resentment between these two siblings, and there's a lot of jealousy between these two siblings. And because they don't want to acknowledge that they might be jealous of one another, or they might be resentful towards one another, and because they don't want to go through real therapy, like off the show, therapy that's got nothing to do and is not sponsored by Bravo, because they choose to not do that together as a family, it's always going to be this issue. And I don't think that the audience, the fans, I don't think that we care enough to want to see this season after season after season after season. Someone had said that if it wasn't for the Joe Gorga and Teresa Giudice feud, Melissa would have no storyline, because her whole entire existence on this show is centered around the fact that her husband and his sister do not get along. She ain't got nothing else going on with her. We didn't care about her singing. We don't care about Envy. So now we have this other situation where she may have been having an affair or kissing some man in a car. We don't know if that's true. Y'all, I think Andy Cohen needs to seriously go back to the drawing board and reconsider whether this whole Real Housewives situation is worth it anymore. Now, I'm going to continue to watch, so I might be part of the problem because I'm still watching. So if I'm still watching, they're still getting paid and they're still going to produce these shows. But I can't break away from it because I have to see how it all concludes, how it all ends. But I think it's time for Andy Cohen to either come up to revamp all of this and get rid of all of these women and give us a completely new cast for every single franchise, or put the whole thing to bed. Put the whole entire thing to bed, because I feel like in every single franchise, we are just rehashing the same stories year after year after year after year. The same people who hate each other always hate each other, are always fighting over something. Nothing is really resolved. There's not a lot of positive stuff that comes out of these shows. I don't care about their businesses. There's no envy in my town, and even if there was, there's probably nothing in my size. I don't care about any of their products, any of their businesses. It means nothing to me. It's just like the same feuds over and over and over again. And then for them to bring Danielle on this show, it's like Teresa and Joe reincarnated. Like, why would you bring a cast member who's having an identical issue as your current cast members? Why? And then Rachel, why is she on this show? I like Rachel, okay, but the only interesting thing to me about Rachel is her nose, because I keep looking at her nose and it reminds me so much of Michael Jackson's nose. It is so pointy. When I'm looking at Rachel talk, I'm just so distracted by her damn nose. But anyways, what does Rachel add to this? Okay, she's a number for, Team Melissa. She's on Melissa and Margaret's side. Okay, fine, that's cute. But what does she really add to this? To me, the most interesting person is Dolores. And Dolores, they have completely like pushed her into the background. They're trying to kind of make us think that Dolores is not needed, which I feel like Dolores is always needed because I love Dolores, but they kind of make us feel like, well, Dolores is not needed. And without Frank and Dolores, you really don't need Frank anymore because Dolores, she's trying to cut off Frank and start this new life with Paul. So then what is the point of Frank coming around? He's not married to anybody on the show. So what's the point of him coming around? It would have been great if they added Frank's girlfriend to the damn franchise instead of Rachel, because that it would make sense to bring Frank along because I like Frank. I don't mind Frank being there. But then if he can't hang around Dolores, he doesn't really have any purpose to show up anywhere or to have any kind of dialogue with anybody for the purpose of the show. Now, in real life, I understand they're all friends and they get along and it's wonderful. But for the show, it really doesn't make any sense to give any type of screen time to Frank if he's no longer going to be attached to Dolores. And we're not going to do another 5 seasons of Frank struggling to move on with his life without Dolores. I can't. And I understand that the next episode, Dolores and Frank are going to have a conversation about, why she can't spend as much time with him and why she cannot include him in her life now. We've already talked about this. What is there to talk about? Paul is not comfortable with Frank, so Dolores has to let Frank go. What more is there to say? Dolores is not going to choose Frank over Paul. She's not going to do that. So why are we having conversations about it? Why are Frank and Dolores meeting up to talk about it? Joe Gorga and his sister Teresa will never get along. They will never get along. I don't think they've ever gotten along truly on this damn show. And then the fact that there's so much happening behind the scenes that we're not privy to is frustrating. For example, when Teresa's daughters said that Joe and Melissa were really not there for them when their parents were in jail. We don't know that. We don't know that. We saw Joe and Melissa coming over. We saw Joe and Melissa crying with everybody in the Giudice family. But the girls say, hey, it was all fake. It was all for camera time. They were just doing it for a check. When the cameras were gone, Joe and Melissa were gone. They weren't around us at all. They weren't there for us at all to support us. We don't know that. So we can't really make any kind of judgment on what happened when the cameras were not there. Margaret. Okay, Margaret and Jennifer Aiden. Every season, they're bickering, they're fighting. They make up just to break up again. I'm tired of it. Okay, Margaret said what she said about Nabil and his damn affair. Evidently, Jennifer Aiden got over it. The kids don't give a damn. So why do we keep talking about it? This happened last season or the season before. I don't remember. Why is it still a topic of conversation in this episode? Another thing, Jennifer and her husband Nabil. They're not having any issues. They're trying to give them issues so they can have a storyline that is separate and apart from Margaret and Teresa. So they're trying to give Jennifer some storyline so she can have, a purpose to be on camera. I don't believe that Nabil is neglecting his children, that he's not there for his kids. I don't believe for a second. I thought I did, but I don't think I believe this anymore. I don't believe for a second that Nabil comes home and just goes straight into the pool house and does not interact with his family. I don't believe it. Because when they first came on the scene, when the Aidens first came on the scene, Nabil was hands-on with his kids. And all of a sudden, I'm supposed to believe that just like that overnight, now he's like an absentee father and Jennifer has to do it all by herself. I don't believe it. There's nothing wrong with Jennifer and Nabil's marriage. They're fine. But the show has to create this fake storyline so that it doesn't seem like every single character is connected to the whole Teresa and Joe Gorga feud. They're trying to prove to us that, hey, we've got other things going on with our characters. They're doing other things. No, they're not. Because anytime these group of women get together, the whole topic of conversation is Teresa and Joe and Melissa. Now that we've added this ex-best friend, Laura, who I'm surprised we haven't even seen yet, and this is episode 12. We haven't seen this woman. We just hear about her and see pictures of her. I'm surprised that it seems like now Laura is going to be a huge part of the storyline. I don't know. I don't know. I just think that this franchise needs to end. It's the same stuff. There's no purpose for Rachel being there. There's really no purpose for Nestler, or is it Fessler? No purpose for Rachel. No purpose for Fessler. No purpose for Danielle. Because they're not doing anything that adds to the show overall. Like, what is going on with Rachel? Okay, so Rachel has her issue with adopting her stepson. I don't care. I don't care if she's able to adopt her stepson or not, if they find the biological mother or not. And the reason why I don't care is because why do you feel the need that you have to adopt him when you are already like his mother? You're already that mother figure in his life. You already know that finding this woman is going to be hard. And if you do find her, she's probably going to put up a fight for the sake of putting up a fight. So why not just relish in being a bonus mom? Not even a stepmom, a bonus mom. And, if you feel like you want him to inherit stuff from you, for legal reasons, girl, get you an ironclad will and make sure that anything that you have will move on, will be able to be passed on to him. You're already his mother. The love is already there. The adoption papers are not going to make a bit of difference. They're not going to make a bit of difference. And you've been in this kid's life ever since he was a little boy. And now all of a sudden you want to adopt him. I'm thinking to myself, is this for the show? Because why didn't you try to adopt him before? Is this for the show? Or is this legit? Because if this is just for the show, then it's sad. Y'all have fallen to a brand new low. That's all that's going on with Rachel is her adoption thing. Okay, Dolores, she's, dealing with Frank Catania and, whatever. There's really nothing else going on besides the constant bickering between the Judites and the Gorgas. There's really nothing going on. I'll be so happy once we get this wedding underway. Anywho, thank you so much for joining me. I really do appreciate it. On your way out, don't forget to rate the video. If you like this content, go ahead and subscribe, and I'll definitely talk to you later. Bye.